Millionaire's shocking reunion, ex-wife and triplets resembling him at elite eatery. Arthur Sterling, a man of 48 years, stood by the vast window of his Summit Tower office, gazing down at the sprawling metropolis below. Everything within his sight seemed to belong to him, or at least that was how it felt. He had accumulated more wealth than he could possibly spend in 3 lifetimes, presiding over Sterling Dynamics, a multi-million-dollar acquisition powerhouse for over 2 decades. Headlines often celebrated him as one of the nation's most coveted bachelors, but tonight, a peculiar disquiet settled within him. Mr. Sterling, Brenda, his assistant for 18 years, announced softly, tapping on the door. "Your dinner reservation at the Lumina Grill is in an hour, and the executive board members are already en route." Arthur adjusted his expensive tie, a subtle piece of art in its own right, and picked up his tailored jacket. Another evening, another business dinner, this was his life now, a ceaseless cycle of meetings, deals, and more meetings. He found a certain comfort in this structured existence, or so he told himself. "Thank you, Brenda, you can head home now," he offered a small smile to the woman who had served him for nearly 2 decades, and perhaps knew him better than anyone. Brenda hesitated at the threshold. "There was one more thing, sir. A letter arrived for you today, from Vance and Partners Legal." Arthur froze. Vance, a name he hadn't heard in 8 years, a name he had meticulously tried to erase from his thoughts. "Just put it on my desk," he managed, attempting to sound indifferent, but his pulse quickened. After Brenda departed, Arthur picked up the envelope. He didn't need to open it to recognize the sender. Elara Vance, his former wife, the woman he had once loved with an intensity that dwarfed all other emotions, until his relentless ambition had overshadowed everything. Memories flooded his mind as he held the sealed letter. Their charming loft apartment with large windows when they were first married, Elara's melodic laughter, the way she used to bring him coffee in bed every single morning. The arguments that began as minor disagreements but swelled into insurmountable chasms. The day she walked away, tears streaming down her face, murmuring that she couldn't compete with his insatiable drive for external validation. "Not now," he murmured, placing the letter into a drawer. He had a dinner to attend, important people were waiting. The Lumina Grill was precisely what one would anticipate from one of the city's most exclusive establishments. Crystal chandeliers cast a soft glow, gentle melodies drifted through the air, and waiters moved like phantoms among the tables. Arthur sat at the head of a large table, offering polite laughter at jokes that held no humor for him, engaging in trivial small talk with individuals he barely knew. "And then I explained to him that the market algorithms were utterly worthless," Victor, one of the executive board members, declared, prompting a chorus of polite chuckles. It was then that Arthur saw her. She was seated 3 tables away, as captivating as the day he had first met her. Elara. Her auburn hair was shorter now, but her smile, that captivating smile that had once been his entire universe, remained utterly unchanged. She was dining with someone Arthur couldn't discern clearly. Then he heard it, the joyful sound of children's laughter, 3 children, to be precise, all approximately 7 years old, gathered around Elara's table. 2 girls and a boy. They shared her vibrant smile, but something about them sent a shiver of dread through Arthur. The boy's astute eyes, the way one of the girls tilted her head in thoughtful contemplation, these were not just any children. "Mr. Sterling, are you quite all right?" Victor's voice cut through his daze, laced with concern. Arthur found it difficult to breathe, to think. Basic arithmetic was not his forte, but he could count. 7 years. The divorce had been 8 years ago. Elara had departed, and he had been too proud, too stubborn to fight for her. Had she been? "Excuse me," he stammered, standing so abruptly his chair nearly toppled. "I need some air." But instead of heading for the exit, his feet carried him inexorably towards Elara's table. She was laughing at something one of the girls had said when her gaze met his. The laughter died on her lips. "Arthur," she whispered, her tone not angry, nor joyous, but cautiously neutral. The children looked up at him, their expressions a mix of curiosity and innocent observation. The boy had his eyes, precisely his eyes, an uncanny mirror of his own. Are they? He couldn't complete the sentence. Ilara's face underwent a subtle shift, a blend of apprehension and fierce resolve. They're mine, she stated firmly. Mommy, who's that? Lyra, the poet with Ilara's exact smile, inquired. Just someone Mommy used to know, Ilara replied, her eyes never leaving Arthur's face. A long time ago. Arthur felt the room spin around him. These children, these exquisitely perfect children, they had to be his. The timing, their striking resemblance, the very way they moved. How had he not known? Why had she not informed him? We need to talk, he managed to articulate. No, we don't, Ilara retorted, though her voice quivered almost imperceptibly. You made your choice a long time ago, Arthur. You chose your empire over everything else, over me, over us. But there are. He lowered his voice, acutely aware of the curious glances from nearby tables. Mine, Ilara reiterated firmly. They're mine. I attempted to tell you, Arthur, when I discovered I was pregnant. I called your office numerous times. I sent digital correspondence logs. You had changed your number. Your assistant, Ms. Davis, the one before Brenda, stated you were too busy. After a while, I understood the message. You didn't wish to be found. Arthur felt as though he had been struck in the gut. He remembered those tumultuous months after Ilara left, how he had plunged himself into work, changed his number, hired a new assistant, anything to circumvent the crushing pain of losing her. I didn't know, he whispered. Would it have made a difference? Ilara questioned, and for a fleeting moment, he glimpsed the enduring pain she still carried. Would you have chosen differently? Before he could answer, one of the girls tugged at Ilara's sleeve. Mommy, can we have dessert now? You promised. Ilara's expression softened as she gazed at her daughter, their daughter. Of course, sweetie. Why don't you three look at the dessert menu and pick something special? The children eagerly snatched the menus, affording Arthur an opportunity to truly observe them. Leo possessed his mother's auburn hair but his father's strong, determined jaw, even at this tender age. The girls were identical twins, perfect amalgamations of him and Ilara. What are their names? He inquired quietly. Ilara hesitated, then sighed. Lyra and Nova are the girls. The boy is Leo. Leo. Philip Leo Sterling's middle name. Had she done that deliberately? They're beautiful, he murmured, his voice thick with unbridled emotion. Yes, they are, Ilara's voice was softer now. And they're happy. We're happy. Ilara, please, we need to talk about this, truly talk. She regarded him for a long moment, then extended a business card. My office number. Call tomorrow. Not for us, that ship has sailed. But for them. If you're serious, if you're ready to be there for someone besides yourself. Arthur accepted the card with trembling fingers. Back at his table, his colleagues feigned disinterest, pretending not to stare. His perfectly ordered world had just been irrevocably overturned, and nothing would ever be the same. As he walked back to his table on unsteady legs, he could hear the children's laughter behind him, his children's laughter, and for the first time in years, his empire of glass and steel felt utterly hollow compared to what he had lost, and what he might yet rediscover. Arthur barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw their faces, his children. The word felt strange, even in his innermost thoughts. He had 3 children he never knew about, 3 lives he had missed out on for 7 years. The next morning, he arrived at his Summit Tower office earlier than usual. Brenda was already there, as efficient as always, his coffee ready. Brenda, he stated, his voice grave. I need you to tell me the truth. 7 years ago, did Ilara attempt to contact me? Brenda's face changed. She set down the coffee cup slowly. Yes, sir, numerous times. And what happened to those messages? Ms. Davis, your assistant at the time, she said you had given strict instructions not to be disturbed by your former wife. She returned all the digital correspondence logs and blocked the recorded voicemail messages. Arthur sank into his chair. Why didn't you tell me this when you took over? By then, it had been several months. I assumed, Brenda hesitated, I assumed you knew what you were doing. You never mentioned her name, not once in all these years. Arthur pulled Alara's business card from his pocket. It was already worn from how many times he had handled it since last night. Vance and Partners Legal. She had become a lawyer, just as she had always dreamed. Get Ms. Davis on the phone, he commanded quietly. I want every digital correspondence log, every recorded voicemail message that Alara sent. Everything. Sir, that was 7 years ago. Ms. Davis probably didn't keep them. Find them, Arthur interrupted. Whatever it takes. And clear my schedule for the afternoon. At exactly 2 p.m., Arthur stood outside Alara's office building. It was a modest law firm, nothing like his gleaming corporate headquarters, but it possessed a unique character, just like her. The receptionist led him to a small but meticulously neat office. Alara was at her desk, reading glasses perched on her nose, surrounded by papers. She looked up when he entered, and he realized she had been expecting him. You came, she said simply. Did you think I wouldn't? Honestly, I didn't know. The Arthur I knew would have moved heaven and earth to be here, but the Arthur you became soon. She shrugged. I wasn't sure. I found out about Ms. Davis, he said, sitting down across from her. About the digital correspondence logs and recorded voicemail messages. Does that make a difference? It makes all the difference. His voice rose slightly, and he forced himself to calm down. Alara, if I had known you were pregnant, you would have. What? She removed her glasses. Thrown money at the situation. Added us to your busy schedule between executive board meetings. That's not fair. No. Tell me something, Arthur, yesterday at the Lumina Grill, that was a business dinner, wasn't it? Some important deal you couldn't miss. He nodded slowly. And how many of those dinners do you have in a week? That's different. I didn't know I had a family. But you did have a family. You had me. And that wasn't enough. The truth of her words struck him hard. She was right. Even before she left, he had been pulling away, choosing work over their marriage, external validation over love. Tell me about them, he said softly. Please. Something in his voice must have reached her, because her expression softened. She opened a drawer and pulled out a photo album. Lyra is the oldest. By 3 minutes, she said, showing him a picture. She's the poet and storyteller of the family, always crafting verses, always narrating something. Nova is our little inventor. She wants to know how everything works and build things. And Leo, she smiled, Leo is just like you were before the money changed everything, thoughtful, strategic, always trying to make people laugh. Arthur's throat tightened as he looked at the photos. First steps, first words, first day of preschool, all the moments he had tragically missed. They've asked about their father, Alara continued. I've never lied to them. I told them their daddy was someone I loved very much, but he had to go away, and now. Arthur's voice was barely a whisper. Now. Alara sighed. Now they're old enough to start asking harder questions, and honestly, I don't know what to tell them anymore. Tell them the truth, Arthur said. Tell them their father was a fool who lost his way, but he wants to make it right. It's not that simple, Arthur. They have a life, a routine. They're happy. I'm not asking to disrupt their lives. I'm asking for a chance. A chance to know them, to be their father. And what happens when the next big deal comes along? When your empire needs you more than they do? Arthur reached across the desk and took her hand. She didn't pull away. I was wrong, Elara, about everything. I thought success meant having the biggest company, the most money. But sitting in that restaurant last night, watching our children laugh, that was worth more than every deal I've ever made. Tears formed in Elara's eyes. I wanted to tell you so many times, even after the pregnancy, after they were born. But you had made it so clear that your new life didn't have room for me. I couldn't bear to be rejected again. I'm sorry, he said, and he meant it more than any words he'd ever spoken. I know those words aren't enough, but I am so sorry. Just then, his phone vibrated. Brenda's name flashed on the screen. Without hesitation, Arthur turned the phone off completely. Elara noticed. Don't you need to get that? No, he said firmly. Nothing is more important than this conversation. She studied his face for a long moment. The children have a play at the Community Arts Hall next fortnight. They're doing The Three Little Pigs. Lyra is the smart pig who builds with bricks. Would it be okay if I came? Fourth row, center section, Elara said quietly. That's where I always sit. It starts at 2. Arthur felt hope bloom in his chest for the first time since last night. I'll be there. Arthur, Elara's voice stopped him as he stood to leave. If we do this, if we let you into their lives, you have to be sure, really sure. Because if you disappear on them like you did on me. I won't, he promised. I've spent the last 7 years chasing things that don't matter. I'm done running. As he walked out of her office, Arthur pulled out his phone and turned it back on. Dozens of messages and missed calls lit up the screen. Important people demanding his attention, deals waiting to be made, money waiting to be earned. For the first time in his life, none of it seemed to matter. He called Brenda. Cancel everything next week, and find me some books about parenting. And what do 7-year-olds like? What toys? What games? I need to learn everything. Of course, Mr. Sterling, Brenda replied, and he could hear the smile in her voice. And sir, it's good to have the old you back. Arthur looked back at Elara's office building. Somewhere in this city, 3 children were going about their day, unaware that their father's heart was already overflowing with love for them. He had a lot to make up for, a lot to prove, but for the first time in years, he was ready to fight for something real. The Community Arts Hall auditorium was packed with parents, all holding phones and cameras, ready to record The Three Little Pigs. Arthur sat nervously in the 4th row, center section, exactly where Elara had told him to be. He had left 4 executive meetings and a multi-million-dollar acquisition to be here, and for once, he didn't regret it one bit. Elara arrived with the children, all 3 of them dressed in their costumes. She noticed him immediately, but didn't seem surprised. She had known he would come. He had texted her frequently throughout the week to confirm the time and place. Remember, she whispered as she passed his row, they don't know who you are yet. We agreed to take this slow. Arthur nodded. He was just another face in the crowd today, but his heart nearly burst when Lyra came on stage in her brick builder pig costume. She delivered her lines perfectly, wagging her finger at her siblings about the importance of building a strong house. Nova and Leo sat in the audience with Elara, cheering their sister on. After the play, Arthur watched from a distance as parents congratulated their children. He wanted so badly to go tell Lyra how wonderful she had been, to hug all 3 of them, but he had promised Elara they would do this right. Mr. Sterling, a teacher approached him. I'm Ms. Albright, the children's teacher. Arthur tensed. Does Elara know you're talking to me? The teacher smiled kindly. She told me you might be here. She also told me the situation. She paused. They're wonderful children. You should be proud. I am, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I just wish. It's never too late to be a good father, Ms. Albright said gently. Just be patient. They're worth waiting for. Over the next few weeks, Arthur learned what it meant to be patient. He started small, sending anonymous gifts to the school, new painting sets for Lyra's class, a high-tech basketball training system for Leo's after-school program, and astronomy books for the playground where Nova loved to observe. Lyra knew who the gifts were from, of course. They were so excited about the new basketballs, she told him during one of their bi-weekly catch-ups. These meetings had become their time to talk about the children, to plan the next steps. And the painting sets? He asked eagerly. Lyra hasn't put down those new watercolors since they arrived. She's already filled up several canvases. Arthur smiled, imagining his daughter creating. I'd love to see her artwork sometime. Lyra hesitated, then pulled out her phone. Here, she said, showing him a photo. She drew this yesterday. It was a picture of 3 pigs, clearly inspired by the play, but they were wearing regular clothes and doing everyday things. One was reciting poetry, one was building a miniature robot, and one was playing chess. It's them, Arthur realized. She drew herself and her siblings. She's very observant, Lyra said. All 3 of them are. They notice everything. Have they asked about me? About the man from the restaurant? Lyra stirred her coffee slowly. Nova asked if you were one of Mommy's clients. Leo said you looked familiar, like someone he'd seen in a dream. Arthur's heart ached. And Lyra? Lyra smiled slightly. Lyra said you had kind eyes. Tears threatened to spill from those kind eyes. When can I meet them, really meet them? Soon, Lyra promised. But first, there's something else we need to discuss. She pulled out 3 folders from her bag. Each had a child's name on it. These are their medical records, school reports, everything you should know if you're going to be in their lives. You need to know about Lyra's severe food allergies, about Leo's slight acrophobia, about Nova's photophobia. Arthur took the folders like they were made of gold. I'll memorize every word. There's more, Lyra continued. Nova has a science fair next month. Leo has basketball practice every Tuesday and Thursday. Lyra has poetry classes on Wednesdays. Their world doesn't run on business hours, Arthur. They need consistency. I'll rearrange everything, he said without hesitation. Brenda's already working on restructuring my schedule. I'm delegating more to my VPs. And what about your board? Won't they object to their CEO suddenly working half days? Arthur's face hardened. Let them object. I've given that company everything for 20 years. It's time I gave something to my family instead. The word family hung between them, heavy with meaning. They weren't a couple anymore. Both had been clear about that. But they were connected by something stronger than romance, 3 beautiful children who deserved the best of both their parents. That evening, Arthur sat in his Summit Tower penthouse, spreading the folders across his coffee table. He had ordered pizza, something he hadn't done in years, and settled in for a night of learning about his children. Nova was allergic to peanuts and tree nuts. Leo had won a sportsmanship trophy in his basketball league last season. Lyra had been chosen to have her poetry displayed in the school hallway. His phone buzzed constantly with business calls, but he ignored them all. Instead, he opened his laptop and started making notes. Basketball equipment in Leo's size. Painting sets Lyra might like. Astronomy books for Nova. Not to send to the school this time, but to have ready at his place, just in case they ever wanted to visit their father. The next morning, he called his real estate agent. The penthouse isn't right, he said. I need something more family-friendly, a place with a yard near good schools. But sir, you just recently upgraded the penthouse last year. Things change, Arthur said, looking at a crayon drawing Lyra had given him, Lyra's latest masterpiece. People change. Later that week, he met Alara for their regular discussion. She looked troubled. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately. "It's Leo," she said. "He has a family day event at school next fortnight. He usually takes his uncle, Marcus, my brother, but this morning he asked me why he doesn't have a dad like his friends do." Arthur's heart squeezed painfully. "What did you tell him?" "I told him that families come in all different shapes and sizes, that some kids have two parents, some have one, some have more. But," she looked directly at him, "I think it's time. Time for you to meet them properly this time, not as a stranger in a restaurant, but as—" She took a deep breath. "As their father." Arthur felt like his heart might explode. "Are you sure?" "No," Alara admitted. "But they deserve to know, and you've proven over these past weeks that you're serious about this. You haven't missed a single bi-weekly catch-up. You've learned their schedules, their likes and dislikes. You're trying." "When?" His voice was barely a whisper. "This Saturday. I'm taking them to Harmony Park near our house. They love the playground there." She smiled slightly. "I hear it just got some brand new equipment." Arthur tried to look innocent. The playground renovation had been his latest anonymous gift to the community. "Thank you," he said softly, "for giving me this chance." "Don't thank me yet," Alara warned. "This is just the beginning, and it won't be easy. They might be angry, confused, afraid. We need to be ready for anything." "We'll handle it together," Arthur said, then realizing how that sounded, he added quickly, "As parents, I mean. Not as—" "I know what you meant," Alara said gently. "And you're right. Whatever happens Saturday, we'll handle it together, for them." Arthur left the coffee shop feeling like he was walking on air. After 7 years of living in a world of cold business deals and empty success, he was finally going to meet his children, really meet them. He had 5 days to prepare for the most important meeting of his life. No business deal, no corporate merger, no $1 million contract could compare to this. This was about family, about love, about second chances, and Arthur Sterling was not going to waste this chance. Saturday morning arrived with dark clouds threatening rain, but Arthur didn't care about the weather. He had barely slept, spending most of the night rehearsing what he would say to his children. Now, standing in his walk-in closet, he was facing an unexpected crisis. What does a father wear to meet his children for the first time? His phone rang. It was his mother, Vivian Sterling. "Arthur darling, what's this I hear about you canceling the Morrison acquisition? Your father built this company on deals like that." Arthur sighed. He hadn't told his parents about the children yet. "Mother, I can't talk right now. I have somewhere important to be. More important than a $200 million acquisition. The board is worried, Arthur. They're saying you've changed." "Maybe I have," he said, finally selecting a simple blue sweater instead of his usual business suit, "and maybe that's not a bad thing. This is about her, isn't it?" Vivian's voice turned cold. "I saw you at the Lumina Grill 3 weeks prior with Alara. You were there. I was having dinner with the Whitakers. I saw you approach her table. Those children," she paused, "tell me they're not yours." "They are," Arthur said firmly. "You have 3 grandchildren, mother, triplets. Their names are Lyra, Nova, and Leo." The silence on the other end was deafening. "Then how dare she keep this from us? We'll sue for custody. We're Sterlings. We have rights." "No," Arthur's voice was sharp. "You will do no such thing. Alara raised them perfectly well without us, without me. If anyone should be angry, it's them. But the company is just a company." Arthur, his father Philip Leo Sterling, tried, "Be reasonable. Think of the scandal. We need to handle this privately with our lawyers." "No." Arthur turned to his children, who were watching with wide eyes. I'm so sorry about this. This isn't how I wanted our first meeting to go, but I want you to know something. Your mother is the strongest, bravest person I know, and everything she's done for you. Lyra stepped forward suddenly, her small hand slipping into Arthur's. Your eyes are sad, she said simply. That simple observation, that innocent touch, broke something in Arthur. Tears fell freely down his face. I am sad, he admitted. Sad that I missed so much, sad that I'm only meeting you now, but also very, very happy that I get to meet you at all. Nova and Leo moved closer too, curious rather than afraid now. Vivian started to say something else, but Philip put a hand on her arm. Vivian, he said quietly. Look at them. The children were standing with Arthur now, looking up at him with questions in their eyes. Elara watched carefully, ready to step in if needed, but letting the moment unfold. Can we call you Daddy? Leo asked suddenly. Arthur looked at Elara. She nodded slightly. I would love that, he said, his voice breaking. But only if you want to. We can take it slow, get to know each other first. I want to know everything, Nova declared. Do you like building things? I love building things, especially complex models. And chess. Leo added hopefully. And poetry? Lyra chimed, and Arthur laughed through his tears. I want to know everything about you too. Everything you like, everything you don't like, all your favorite things. Vivian and Philip stood awkwardly to the side, watching their son interact with his children for the first time. The anger seemed to drain from Vivian's face, replaced by something softer. They have your eyes, she said quietly to Arthur. All three of them. They have a lot more than that, Elara said, speaking up. They have his kindness, his creativity, his spirit, everything good about Arthur before the business world changed him. And now, she looked at Arthur with something like hope, now maybe they'll have their father too. The rain that had been threatening all morning finally began to fall, soft and gentle, but nobody moved. The Sterling family, all three generations, stood in the rain, watching as something broken began to heal, as something lost began to be found. It wasn't perfect. There would be more difficult conversations, more tears, more adjustments, but it was a start, and sometimes a start is all you need. The weeks following the park meeting brought big changes to everyone's lives. Arthur had bought the Willow Creek estate, just 10 minutes from Elara's, a warm, comfortable place with a big backyard and a room for each of the children. He'd let them pick their own colors for the walls, deep purple for Lyra's room, sky blue for Nova's, and forest green for Leo's. Today was their first overnight visit. Arthur had never been more nervous in his life. The EpiPen for Lyra's allergies is in the kitchen drawer, Elara reminded him for the third time. And Nova's special glasses are in my pocket. Arthur finished. And Leo might get scared if he's too high up, but reading him a story helps. I remember everything, Elara. She nodded, but he could see the worry in her eyes. This was the first night she would spend away from them since they were born. Mommy, we'll be fine, Nova said, hugging her mother's legs. Daddy has a new telescope. He's going to show us the stars. The word daddy still made Arthur's heart skip a beat. The children had started using it naturally, though sometimes they still called him Arthur. He treasured both equally. And he got painting sets. Lyra added excitedly. Real artist ones. And a basketball hoop in the backyard. Leo couldn't contain his joy. Elara smiled despite her anxiety. Okay, you three, be good. Call me if you need anything, anytime, okay? After she left, Arthur stood looking at his children, and felt a moment of panic. What did he know about being a father? Can we have pizza? Leo asked hopefully. Arthur laughed, relieved. Pizza he could handle. Sure, buddy, what kind do you like? Cheese. Pepperoni. Everything except anchovies. They all spoke at once, and Arthur found himself relaxing. They were just kids, his kids, and they wanted to spend time with him. While waiting for the pizza, Nova discovered his home office. "What's all this?" she asked, pointing at his quantum synthesis monitor displaying complex market algorithms. "That's what I do for work," Arthur explained. "I help companies grow and become successful." "Is that why you weren't with us?" The question was innocent, but it hit Arthur hard. "Partly," he admitted. "I thought being successful meant making lots of money, but I was wrong. Being successful means being there for the people you love." Nova considered this. "Like how mommy always comes to our school plays." "Exactly like that." Arthur swallowed hard. "I'm sorry I missed those plays, but I won't miss any more. Promise." Nova's eyes were serious. "I promise." The pizza arrived, and they ate in the living room, something Arthur had never done before. The children told him about their school, their friends, their dreams. "I want to be an astronaut," Nova declared, "and discover new planets." "I'm going to play basketball in the Olympics," Leo said confidently. "I want to write poems that make people happy," Lyra added softly. Arthur listened to each dream with equal attention. "You can be anything you want to be," he told them. "I'll help you get there." After dinner, they set up the telescope on the back porch. Arthur had taken astronomy classes in college, and Nova was impressed by his knowledge of constellations. "That's Orion," he pointed out. "See his belt, 3 stars in a row. Like us." Lyra exclaimed. "We're 3 in a row too." "Yeah." Leo agreed. "I'm the middle star." "No, I am." Nova argued. "Actually," Arthur intervened, "you're all special stars, just like in the sky. Each one of you shines in your own way." The children loved this idea, and soon they were making up their own constellations. Arthur took pictures on his phone to send to Alara, wanting her to be part of the moment too. Bedtime proved more challenging. Despite their excitement about their new rooms, the children were nervous about sleeping in a strange place. "Can we all sleep in the same room?" Leo asked, clutching his favorite hand-carved wooden bird. "Please," the girls echoed. Arthur thought about it. "How about we make a fort in the living room instead?" This suggestion was met with enthusiastic approval. Soon, the living room was transformed with blankets, pillows, and Christmas lights Arthur had found in a closet. He read them 3 stories, one chosen by each child, until their eyes started drooping. Just as they were falling asleep, a strong gust of wind rattled the windows, causing Leo to tense immediately. "It's okay," Arthur soothed, pulling his son close. "Remember what the telescope showed us? Wind is just the air saying hello." "That's not scientific," Nova mumbled sleepily. "No," Arthur agreed, "but sometimes it's okay to believe in a little magic." The children finally fell asleep, but Arthur stayed awake, watching them breathe. His phone buzzed, a text from Alara. "Everything okay?" He sent her the photos from their stargazing session, adding, "All good." "They're amazing, Alara. You did such a wonderful job with them." Her reply came quickly. "We did make beautiful children, didn't we?" Arthur smiled in the dark. "Yes, we did." The next morning, Arthur woke to find Lyra already up, sketching quietly in the corner. She had captured their blanket fort perfectly, with 3 small figures sleeping inside and a larger one watching over them. "Is that us?" he asked softly, not wanting to wake the others. Lyra nodded. "It's our first night as a real family." Arthur felt tears coming again. He seemed to cry a lot these days, but these were happy tears. "Can I keep this drawing? I'd like to frame it for my office." "Your work office?" Lyra looked surprised. "Yes, so when I'm there, I can remember what really matters." Later that morning, when Elara came to pick them up, she found them all in the kitchen attempting to make pancakes. There was flour everywhere, and the pancakes were oddly shaped, but everyone was laughing. "Mommy," the children ran to hug her. "We saw stars and made a fort and Daddy let us put chocolate chips in the pancakes." Elara raised an eyebrow at Arthur, who shrugged sheepishly. It was a special occasion. "Can we come back next weekend?" Leo asked. "Please," the girls added. Elara looked at Arthur. He tried to keep his face neutral, but she could see the hope in his eyes. "We'll see," she said, but she was smiling. "Maybe next time we could all have dinner together." Arthur's heart leaped at the suggestion, not because he thought it meant anything romantic. They were both clear about that chapter being closed, but because it meant she was beginning to trust him with their children. As they were leaving, Nova turned back. "Daddy, will you come to my science fair next week? I'm doing a project about the stars we saw." "I wouldn't miss it for the world," Arthur promised. After they left, Arthur walked through his house. It was messier than it had ever been, blankets everywhere, dishes in the sink, flour on the floor, but it had never felt more like home. He went to his office and pinned Lyra's drawing right above his quantum synthesis monitor. Then he called Brenda. "Cancel my Tuesday morning meetings," he said. "My daughter has a science fair to present." "Of course, Mr. Sterling," Brenda replied warmly. "Should I get flowers for her?" Arthur smiled. "Make it a chemistry set instead." "And Brenda, thank you for understanding." "Thank you for finally understanding too, sir." Arthur looked at Lyra's drawing again. 3 small stars and 1 big one, all under the same roof. It wasn't the success story he had once dreamed of, but it was better, so much better. It started as a normal Tuesday morning. Arthur was reviewing contracts in his office when his phone rang. Seeing Elara's name, he smiled, thinking she was calling about their planned family dinner that evening. But her voice was tight with panic. "Arthur, it's Lyra. They're taking her to Unity Medical Center." He was already grabbing his keys. "What happened?" "Her allergies. It's bad this time, really bad. We're in the ambulance now." He could hear sirens in the background and Lyra's labored breathing. "Which hospital?" "Unity Medical Center, Arthur." "She's so scared." "I'm on my way." He rushed past Brenda's desk. "Cancel everything. Family emergency." The drive to the hospital was a blur. Arthur ran 3 red lights, not caring about the tickets. All he could think about was his little girl struggling to breathe. He'd only been a father for 6 months. He couldn't lose her now. At Unity Medical Center, he found Elara in the emergency room, holding Nova and Leo close. The twins looked terrified. "Where is she?" Arthur demanded. "They took her back there," Elara pointed to the double doors. "They wouldn't let me go with her. They said her oxygen levels were too low." Arthur pulled all of them into his arms, his family. Even if he and Elara weren't together anymore. "She's going to be okay. She has to be okay." Long hours stretched on in the waiting room. Nova and Leo eventually fell asleep on the uncomfortable chairs, but Arthur and Elara stayed awake, waiting for news. "I should have seen it coming," Elara said quietly. "She was reacting a little last night, but I thought her EpiPen would be enough." "Don't," Arthur said firmly. "Don't blame yourself. You're an amazing mother." "Some mother," Elara laughed bitterly. "I can't even protect her from this." "Hey," Arthur took her hand. "Remember what you told me when I first came back? That we handle things together now. That goes both ways. You're not alone anymore." A doctor finally emerged from the double doors. "Mr. and Mrs. Sterling." Neither corrected him. "How is she?" they asked in unison. "Lyra is stable now, but she had a severe allergic reaction. Her airways were severely constricted. We've started her on medication, but we'd like to keep her overnight for observation. Can we see her? Arthur asked. The doctor nodded. She's been asking for both of you, and her siblings. They woke Nova and Leo gently, and the family followed the doctor to Lyra's room. She looked so small in the hospital bed, with tubes in her nose and monitors beeping around her. Daddy. Her voice was weak. You came. Arthur rushed to her side, taking her tiny hand in his. Of course I came, sweetheart. I'll always come when you need me. Both of you. Lyra smiled tiredly at her parents. Together. Elara and Arthur exchanged a look over their daughter's head. Even in the hospital, Lyra was trying to play matchmaker. Nova and Leo climbed carefully onto their sister's bed. Does it hurt? Nova asked. Not anymore, Lyra assured them. The doctors gave me special medicine. I was scared, Leo admitted. Me too, Lyra said, but then I remembered what Daddy said about stars, that we're all special stars that shine our own way. I just needed to shine a little harder to breathe better. Arthur felt his throat tighten. He hadn't known his words had meant so much to her. The night wore on. The twins eventually fell asleep again, curled up in a chair together. Elara and Arthur sat on either side of Lyra's bed, neither willing to leave. You don't have to stay, Elara told him around late evening. I know you have that crucial negotiation tomorrow. Brenda's handling it, Arthur said firmly. This is where I need to be. Lyra stirred in her sleep, and both parents instinctively reached to adjust her blanket. Their hands touched briefly. Remember when they were born? Elara asked softly. How tiny they were. I wish I had been there, Arthur said, the familiar regret washing over him. You're here now, Elara's voice was gentle. When it matters. Morning came, and with it, better news. Lyra's breathing had improved significantly, and the doctor said she could go home the next day. But she would need more aggressive treatment for her allergies, including daily medication. I'll get the best specialists, Arthur promised. Whatever she needs. We can handle the cost, Elara started, but Arthur shook his head. Please, let me do this. Not because I'm trying to throw money at the problem, but because she's my daughter, and I love her. I love all of them. Elara studied him for a moment, then nodded. Okay. But I have conditions. Anything. We do this as a team. Every decision we make, together. And you have to promise me something else. What's that? Promise me you won't disappear again. Not just for Lyra, but for all of them. They need their father, the father you are now, not the man you were before. Arthur looked at his sleeping daughter, at the twins curled up together, at the woman who had raised them alone for so long. I promise. On everything I love, I promise. Later that day, when Lyra was feeling stronger, Arthur pulled out his phone. Want to see something special? He showed her a video of a captivating celestial phenomenon he had found online. See those lights in the sky? They're like nature's own special stars. And guess what? When you're feeling better, we're all going to take a trip to see them. Lyra's eyes widened. Really? All of us? All of us, Elara confirmed from the doorway. As a family. But not until you're stronger, Arthur added, so you have to follow all the doctor's orders, okay? Lyra nodded solemnly. I will. I want to see the skylights with my whole family. That evening, as Lyra slept peacefully, her breathing finally easy, Arthur sat in the Unity Medical Center corridor. He pulled out his phone and began composing an email to his executive board of directors. Effective immediately, I am stepping back from day-to-day operations, he wrote. My family needs me, and for the first time in my life, I'm choosing what really matters. He pressed send without hesitation. Success had a different meaning now. It wasn't measured in dollars or deals, but in the steady breathing of his sleeping daughter, and the trust in her eyes when she called him daddy. Down the hall, he could hear Nova explaining complex celestial mechanics to Leo, and Ilara's gentle laughter. His family, his real success story. The news about Arthur Sterling stepping down from active management of Sterling Dynamics made all the business papers. Millionaire chooses family over fortune, read one headline, but Arthur didn't care about the headlines anymore. His focus was entirely on his family, especially Lyra's recovery. 3 weeks after the hospital scare, Arthur had transformed one of the rooms in his Willow Creek estate into a special art studio for Lyra. The room had perfect lighting, an air purifier, and all the painting sets a 7-year-old could dream of. "Is this really all for me?" Lyra asked, her eyes wide as she took in the easels and paints. "All for you, princess," Arthur smiled. "The doctor said you need a calm place to do your breathing treatments. I thought maybe art could help make those treatments more fun." Ilara stood in the doorway, watching them. She'd been doing that a lot lately, watching Arthur with the children, seeing how he'd changed. "The medication takes 25 minutes, she reminded them. "That's a long time for a 7-year-old to sit still. That's why I got these." Arthur pulled out a set of watercolor paints. "You can paint while the medicine helps you breathe. And look, Nova and Leo have spaces too." He showed them the other corners of the room, a small telescope by the window for Nova, and a comfy reading nook with chess magazines for Leo. "So we can all be together during Lyra's treatments," he explained. Ilara felt tears in her eyes. This was the man she had fallen in love with all those years ago, before money and success had changed him. He was back, but different, better. "Mommy, can we stay here tonight?" Nova asked. "Please." The children had been splitting their time between both homes, but since Lyra's hospital stay, they'd been wanting to be together as a family more often. "Actually," Arthur spoke up, "I wanted to talk to all of you about something." He led them to the living room, where they all sat on the big couch that had become their favorite spot for family meetings. "I've been thinking," he started. "This house is too big for just me, and Lyra needs both her parents close by for her treatment. So, what if we turned this into our family home, all of us?" The children's eyes lit up, but Ilara tensed. "Arthur, not like that," he quickly added. "I had the contractor look at it. We can create 2 completely separate living spaces. You and the kids would have the main house, and I could take the garden annex out back. We'd each have our own space, but we'd be close enough for the children, especially for Lyra's late-night treatments." "I want that!" Leo exclaimed. "Then we could play basketball in the backyard every day. And use the telescope," Nova added. "And paint together," Lyra said softly. Ilara looked at their hopeful faces. "Can I think about it?" "Of course," Arthur said. "No pressure. It's just an idea." But later that night, after the children were asleep, Ilara found Arthur in the kitchen. "Did you really mean what you said about separate spaces?" "Completely separate," he assured her. "I know we're not getting back together, Ilara. I respect that. This isn't about us. It's about them." She sat at the kitchen island. "The thing is, you're different now." "I had to be," he said simply. "When I saw Lyra in that hospital bed, I finally understood what you tried to tell me all those years ago. Success means nothing if you don't have people to share it with." The old Arthur would have just thrown money at the problem, hired nurses, bought medical equipment. The old Arthur was an idiot. He smiled sadly. The old Arthur missed first steps, first words, first everything. "I can't get those moments back, but I can be here for all the moments to come." Just then, they heard a cough from upstairs. Both parents rushed to Lyra's room, finding her sitting up in bed, reacting slightly. "I got it," Arthur said, already reaching for her medication. He sat on the bed, helping Lyra with her medicine, while Ilara got her painting sets ready. Tell me a story, Lyra asked through the mask. Which one would you like? Arthur asked. The one about how you and Mommy met. Arthur and Elara exchanged looks. They had never told the children that story. Well, Arthur began, it was a rainy day, much like today, as he told the story of meeting Elara in a coffee shop during law school, before he'd inherited his father's company, before money had seemed so important. He watched his daughter paint, her breathing eased as she listened and created. Nova and Leo wandered in, drawn by the story. Soon all three children were sitting on the bed, listening to tales of their parents' past. And then Daddy got really silly and spilled coffee all over himself. Elara added, making the children giggle. Only because you made me nervous, Arthur defended himself, grinning. You were the prettiest girl I'd ever seen. Are you still in love? Nova asked innocently. The adults paused. Finally, Elara spoke. We love each other differently now. We love each other as your parents and as friends. That's okay too, Lyra said wisely, as long as we're together. Later, after the children were asleep again, Elara looked at the house plans Arthur had drawn up. The garden annex really would be completely separate, totally. You'd never even have to see me if you didn't want to. She smiled. That's not what I want. The children need both of us, and you've proven that you can be the father they deserve. Is that a yes? It's a, let's try it for them. Arthur nodded, understanding completely. This wasn't a romantic reunion. It was something different, something maybe even more important. The next morning, he called his contractor. As he discussed the renovations, he looked out at the garden where his children were playing. Leo was practicing basketball moves, Nova was explaining something scientific to her siblings, and Lyra was setting up her easel. His phone buzzed with messages from the office, from executive board members concerned about his decision to step back. He ignored them all. Instead, he took a picture of his children and sent it to his mother. This is what real success looks like, he wrote. Vivian's response surprised him. Yes, it does. Your father and I would like to come for dinner this weekend if that's okay with Elara. Arthur smiled. Everyone was learning, changing, growing, all because of three little stars who had shown them what really mattered. In her art studio, Lyra was painting again. This time her picture showed two houses, one big, one small, with 5 people in between them. Above them, she painted a bright blue sky filled with stars. That's beautiful, Arthur said, watching over her shoulder during her morning medication. It's us, Lyra explained. All of us together. Different, but still a family. Out of the mouths of babes, Arthur thought. Different, but still a family. Maybe that was the best kind of family to be. Moving day brought chaos to the Willow Creek estate. Movers carried furniture while construction workers put the finishing touches on the renovated garden annex. The children ran excited circles around everyone, darting between boxes and workers. Be careful. Elara called out as the triplets nearly collided with a man carrying paint cans. I got them. Arthur said, scooping up Leo under one arm and Nova under the other. Lyra followed, giggling at her siblings' predicament. Daddy, put us down. Nova squealed. I don't know, Arthur pretended to think about it. What do you think, Lyra? Should I put them down? Only if they help me organize my art supplies, Lyra bargained, showing a hint of her father's business sense. Vivian Sterling watched this scene from the front porch, a strange expression on her face. She had come to help with the move, bringing an army of professional organizers with her, but now she was just watching her son with his children. He's different with them, isn't he? Elara said, joining her former mother-in-law on the porch. Vivian nodded slowly. I haven't seen him laugh like that since before you left. He's found his way back to himself, Elara observed, the real Arthur, not the one the business world created. Vivian turned to her daughter-in-law. Ex-daughter-in-law, she corrected herself mentally. I owe you an apology, Elara. What I said at the park that day, it was unforgivable. But not unexpected, Elara said gently. You were protecting your son, your family name. I was wrong, Vivian admitted. You protected those children far, far better than we ever could have. You gave them love instead of a legacy. Inside the house, Arthur was helping the children set up their rooms. Each child had picked a special project to do with their father. In Nova's room, they were hanging a massive solar system model from the ceiling. Jupiter's the biggest planet. Nova informed him seriously. That's right, Arthur agreed. Just like you're the biggest by 3 minutes. But size doesn't matter, Nova recited, something her mother often said. We're all special in different ways. In Leo's room, they were setting up a display case for his growing collection of chess trophies. Even the participation ones? Arthur asked. Mommy says every trophy tells a story, Leo explained, even the ones that don't say, winner. Lyra's room took the longest. They had to set up her easel just right, position her medication where she could reach it easily, and arrange all her painting sets by color. Perfect. Lyra declared finally. Arthur looked around at his daughter's room, remembering the sterile hospital room from just weeks ago. Yes, it is perfect. That evening, after the workers and movers had left, the family gathered in the kitchen. Vivian had insisted on cooking dinner, or rather, having her chef cook dinner. Grandma, Nova asked as they ate, will you and Grandpa visit more now? Vivian glanced at Elara, who nodded slightly. We'd like that very much, dear, if it's all right with your parents. Both of them? Leo checked. Both of them, Vivian confirmed. Your mother and father are both part of this family. After dinner, Arthur walked his mother to her car. Thank you, he said simply. For what? For trying, for accepting this unconventional arrangement. Vivian touched her son's cheek. You know, watching you today, the way you are with them, with Elara, I finally understand why you stepped back from the company. Some things are worth more than money. As the days passed, the family settled into a routine. Every morning, Arthur made breakfast for everyone in the main house before heading to his office in the garden annex. He had kept a few key roles in the company, but delegated most of the day-to-day operations. The children moved freely between both houses, treating the garden annex like an extension of their home. They had even decorated one of its rooms as their special space, a place where they could go when they needed time with just their dad. One evening, a few months after the move, Elara found Arthur sitting on the back porch of the garden annex, looking troubled. What's wrong? She asked, sitting in the other chair. The executive board wants me back full-time, he said. They're not happy with the current arrangement. What are you going to do? Arthur looked at the main house, where they could see the children through the windows. Lyra was doing her evening medication while painting, Nova was reading a book about space, and Leo was organizing his chess cards. I'm going to tell them no, he said firmly. I'll sell my shares if I have to. I'm not missing any more moments. Elara touched his arm gently. You really have changed. I had good teachers, he smiled, nodding toward the children inside. They heard Lyra coughing. Both parents stood automatically, but Elara waved Arthur back down. I've got this one, she said. You had the morning medication. As she walked away, Arthur called after her. Elara, thank you. For what? For giving me another chance to be their father. For showing me what really matters. She smiled. You did that yourself, Arthur. The moment you chose them over everything else. Later that night, after the children were asleep, Arthur sat in his garden annex office. But instead of looking at business reports, he was going through a box of drawings Lyra had made for him. One showed their 2 houses with the words, "My happy family," written in wobbly letters. His phone rang. It was Philip, his father. The board called me, Philip said without preamble. They want me to talk sense into you. Arthur waited, tensing for the argument. I told them to go to hell. You what? I told them that my son had finally learned what I never did, that family comes first, always. Philip's voice softened. I'm proud of you, son. Arthur looked at Lyra's drawing again. Thanks, Dad. Want to come over this weekend? Leo has a chess game. Wouldn't miss it, Philip said. Your mother's already picked out her cheering outfit. After hanging up, Arthur walked to the main house to do one final check on the children, something that had become his nightly ritual. He found Elara doing the same thing. They stood together in the hallway between the children's rooms, listening to their peaceful breathing. We did good, Elara whispered. You did good, Arthur corrected. I'm just trying to catch up. You're catching up just fine, she assured him. They shared a smile, not a romantic one, but one of deep understanding. They had found their way to a different kind of love, one built on co-parenting and friendship, and 3 amazing children. As Arthur walked back to the garden annex in the early morning hours, he realized something. The wounds of the past, his own childhood, his mistakes with Elara, the years he'd missed with his children, they weren't gone, but they were healing, transforming into something else, wisdom, understanding, and most importantly, love. He looked back at the main house, where his family slept peacefully. Success, he now knew, wasn't about what you gained. It was about what you gave back. And he had the rest of his life to give his children everything that really mattered. 1 year had passed since that fateful night at the Lumina Grill, 1 year since Arthur had first seen his children, since his life had changed forever. Now, on a warm evening in spring, the restaurant was once again full of important people, but this time for a very different reason. Happy birthday, the crowd cheered as the triplets blew out their candles. 8 years old. Arthur could hardly believe it. The private room at the Lumina Grill had been transformed. Gone was the stuffy business atmosphere and formal place settings. Instead, there were balloons, streamers, and 3 different cakes, one for each child's unique taste. Make a wish, Elara encouraged them. But we already have everything we want, Nova said matter-of-factly. Vivian dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. Next to her, Philip beamed with pride. They had come so far from being the cold, business-focused grandparents they once were. Now, Vivian spent every Wednesday baking with Lyra, while Philip never missed one of Leo's chess games. Speech, speech. Brenda called out. She had become like family over the past year, more than just Arthur's assistant. Arthur stood up, looking around the room. A year ago, I sat in this restaurant, thinking I had everything I needed. I had money, success, power. But I was wrong. I had nothing, because I didn't have what really mattered. He looked at his children. Lyra in her purple party dress, Nova with her telescope-shaped hair clips, Leo in his basketball jersey despite the formal occasion. Then 3 little stars came into my life and showed me what true success looks like. It looks like Lyra's breathing getting stronger every day, like Nova discovering a new constellation, like Leo scoring his first point in a basketball game. He turned to Elara. And it looks like forgiveness, understanding, and second chances. Thank you for giving me the chance to be their father. Group hug. Leo declared, and suddenly Arthur found himself surrounded by his children. Can we give them their special present now? Vivian asked eagerly. Arthur nodded. 3 large envelopes were brought out, one for each child. Inside each envelope was a letter and a legal document. What is it? Nova asked, studying the papers carefully. Well, Arthur explained, remember how we talked about different kinds of families, how some live in one house, some in 2, some have different names. The children nodded. These papers make it official that you're Sterling's, but only if you want to be. You can keep your mother's last name if you prefer. It's your choice. We'd be Sterlings, like you and Grandma and Grandpa? Leo asked. Yes, but more importantly, it shows the whole world what we already know, that we're a family. Different from some families, maybe, but still a family. Can we hyphenate? Lyra asked, surprising everyone with her vocabulary. Van Sterling. So we have both names. Arthur and Elara exchanged proud looks. Of course you can. Elara said. If that's what you want. I want that too. Nova agreed quickly. Me three. Leo added. And so it was decided. The papers were signed, making official what their hearts had known for months. They were the Van Sterling family, unique and perfect in their own way. Later that evening, as the party wound down, Arthur found himself back at the same spot where he had first seen his children a year ago. Elara joined him. Penny for your thoughts, she asked. I was just thinking about that night, how scared I was when I realized they might be mine. And now I can't imagine my life without them. You've come a long way, she said softly. We all have. He looked at their children, now showing their grandparents how to play a new game they'd invented. Thank you, Elara. For what? For not giving up on me completely. For letting me be part of their lives. For showing me what matters. She touched his arm gently. You did the hard work yourself, Arthur. You chose them. Every day, you choose them. And I always will, he promised. The children ran over, full of cake and excitement. Daddy, can we show Mommy our surprise now? Arthur checked his watch. Perfect timing. They all went outside to the restaurant's garden terrace. The sun was setting, painting the sky in beautiful colors. Look up. Arthur told them. Right on cue, lights began to dance across the sky, not the real celestial phenomenon he had promised them, but a beautiful light show he had arranged, creating the illusion of dancing lights among the stars. It's magic. Lyra whispered. Like our family. Nova added. Better than winning any chess game. Leo declared. Arthur looked at his family. His children gazing at the lights, Elara smiling proudly, his parents holding hands like teenagers, Brenda taking pictures of everything. This was his real empire, his true success story. 1 year ago, he had been a different man, a man who measured worth in dollars and deals. Now he measured it in hugs, in bedtime stories, in basketball games and invention projects, and poetry sketches. Daddy, Lyra tugged at his sleeve. Will you teach me to write about the lights? Of course, princess. We can try tomorrow during your medication. Can we all create together? Nova asked. Even though I'm not good at art, Leo added. Especially because you're not good at art, Arthur laughed. That's what families do. We try things together, even when we're not good at them. Later that night, after the party was over and the children were asleep in their rooms in the main house, Arthur sat in the garden annex, looking at their birthday cards to him. Each one was different. Lyra's was a beautiful poem. Nova's included scientific facts about birthdays around the world. And Leo's had a basketball sticker and slightly crooked letters. He placed them carefully in a special album he kept, not of business achievements or press clippings, but of real success, his children's artwork, school reports, photographs of family moments. On the last page, he placed a new photo from tonight, all of them looking up at the lights, their faces full of wonder. Below it he wrote. The real meaning of success, loving and being loved in return. Arthur Sterling, once known as the ruthless businessman who had everything, now had something far more valuable, a family that proved second chances were possible, that love could heal old wounds, and that sometimes the best success stories weren't about what you gained, but about what you found when you weren't even looking. And as he walked the path between the garden annex and the main house one last time that night, checking on his sleeping children as he always did, he knew that this moment, this life, this love, was worth more than all the millions he'd ever made. He had finally found his true fortune, and it was worth every star in the sky.